What we're announcing today is a national portfolio of organisations and a collection of major partner museums that supports the ambitions set out in that framework. I think the collected portfolio we're announcing today provides a measure of stability across the country and across art forms. It acknowledges the need for both continuity and innovation and looks at the contemporary and the traditional. But providing a bedrock for excellence to thrive all over the country is the beginning of everything as we've come to make these decisions. We're announcing an NPO portfolio of 670, 46 new organisations, and that requires 58 leaving the portfolio. And we have 5 new major partner museums, which improves our geographical spread immensely. The investment in national portfolio organisations in 2015-16 will be £339.5 million. That's compared to £341.4 million in 14-15, so a reduction of 0.5% in that budget. Grant in aid that we can put to that budget has decreased from £327.5 million to £269.8 million. So we've had to extend our use of national lottery funds up from around £29 million to £69.6 million to continue to fund touring and activity with children and young people, and in order to make sure that we have an NPO portfolio that reaches the whole country and reflects excellence. The major partner museum budget has increased to £22.6 million in 2015-16 from £21.5 million. And this, as I said, secures a much greater geographical balance, and I'll say a bit about that in a moment. The funding decisions have been as a result of a rigorous process. First of all, we assessed applications on their own merits and their ability to deliver against the goals in great art and culture for everyone. And then we had to do a 3D chess exercise to balance the portfolio nationally around the size of organisations within art forms, diversity, geography, and a whole host of other factors in order to deliver the best results for the country as a whole and for art and culture as a whole and for audiences everywhere. And we're publishing today a wide variety of materials giving the detail of the proposed investment and different statistical breakdowns, but I just want to take you through a brief overview now. You'll see that the majority of our NPOs, around 500, have level funding, maintaining investment at current levels. This is very important. This is the stability I talked about. 5% are facing a decrease, and 10% or 68 organisations will have an increase. There's a further 18 who also have an increase, but those are for technical reasons. 68 have an increase based on their application, which demonstrated a real scale of ambition, and also demonstrated that they could lever in match funding. I want to say something about big organisations and some of the largest organisations that we fund, the RSC, the National Theatre, the South Bank Centre, the Royal Opera House, that make a great impact nationally and internationally, as well as locally, as well as where they are. They were guided by us towards lower planning figures in order to protect smaller organisations, in order to make more money available for smaller organisations. And we guided them to ask for 5% less cash over the period. Opera and ballet. We've been working, as many of you know, with the 7 large-scale opera and ballet organisations, undertaking an analysis as to how we can better support their artistic ambitions and protect these art forms and keep these art forms vibrant for future audiences. So as a result, we've outlined recommendations for each company, and I believe those are in your packs. And we believe that the analysis has led to proposals that will, I hope, underpin greater business resilience for the companies, result in a better return for public money, and lead to continued exciting opportunities for artists and audiences. This opera and ballet still remains our largest chunk of spending. In terms of our overall spend, it's gone down from 22% to 21% as a result of this exercise. Let's talk briefly about geography. Over the next 3 years, more money will be invested outside London, building on the current 60% of grant and aid and 70% of lottery investment that Baz mentioned. So there's a small shift of funding in the national portfolio, with £16 million more being spent outside London. So we've moved from 49% of the portfolio being outside London in 2007 to 53% today. These are small but purposeful steps which have been achieved without damaging London's global excellent cultural offer, and that's very important. because while we acknowledge there is a major challenge to build capacity investment in certain parts of the country, we firmly do not believe this should be at the expense of London. We need to continue to seek and to fund excellent art wherever it is, and that's the bottom line. If we start to make decisions on anything other than art and what it does or what it can do, then we cease to do our job. In terms of regions, we've got some great new additions and stories. Additions such as, Tyne and Wear Museum, Derby Theatre back in the portfolio, New Adventures and Reborn, setting up a base in Brighton and working with young people there, but also offering something for the whole country, having a national and local impact. We've got new regional theatre, such as Bike Shed in Exeter. We've increased funding to Akram Khan to extend his ambitions. We've got more innovation promised with increased funding from Manchester International Festival. We're funding interesting contemporary music through auto projects, and the aforementioned partnership with the East Lindsey Council for the Soul Festival in Skegness. And my personal favourite, with increased funding for the English Folk Dance and Song Society, a new national youth folk ensemble, keeping those traditions going. Museums, the main result of our increased investment is offering a much broader geographical spread of the major partner museums, and allowing the major partner museums to provide a wider leadership role. We're delighted to be welcoming partnerships in Derby and Nottingham, a coalition in the form of the Black Country Living Museum and Coventry, the Four Cornwall Museums Partnership, as well as Museums Sheffield and Hull Museums, helping build the city's capacity in anticipation of its Year of Culture in City of Culture in 2017. Strategic funds. The portfolios that I've set out are just one part of the funding picture. Strategic funds are very important and need to be seen as part of the whole picture. So I'm glad we've got an increased grants for the arts budget. That will broaden the reach of our funding to support smaller organisations and individual artists, and that's fundamental to what we're about. Strategic funds will help us seize opportunities, tackle cold spots and build capacity. So, for example, we've mentioned the Creative People and Places Fund. We also have funds around building digital capacity and improving resilience, and a continuation of things like Catalyst in various ways. We also have a new £10 million Grants for Museums programme. But if you look at the amount of strategic funds on the arts side that are available, we've had to make reductions to that budget in order to fund the MPO budget. So the amount of strategic funds we have available has gone down from £153 million in this current year to £104 million next year. And it's very important to bear this in mind. I mean, we have suffered a 36% cut since over the last few years. So in order to maintain the MPO portfolio, something has to give. And what's had to give is the total amount that we can apply to strategic funds. So given these reductions, our focus will be on building capacity outside London. So there'll be, for example, a £15 million regional ambition fund to support ambition outside London, helping the best to continue to be the best wherever they are. And looking at diversity, we'll put a further £6 million into a diversity fund, doing commissioning, showcasing, building capacity. And this is in the light of, for the first time, we've asked everyone who applied for funding from us to take some responsibility for the diversity of their work and indeed of their workforce, and to give us proposals based on the creative case for diversity. Now, the creative case for diversity is moving away from box-ticking approach to diversity. It argues that our national diversity is a creative resource that should be tapped to enrich an organisation's work, which artists it chooses, who it employs, how it brings on new talent, and how it reaches new audiences. It derives from the Master Review of Excellence, and basically it says if we reflect the diversity of the country, we get better art, and it's about the art. And we're going to require organisations to report to us on their progress, and we'll publish how they're doing. So here it is, a national portfolio that takes us through the next 3 years with some inbuilt stability that helps support a cultural ecology that still has, despite all the buffets of finance and around us, shape, intent and ambition at its heart. But we have to recognise that this period will be tough financially, and I hope the government sees that and can give us some stability in the future. and acknowledge the huge efforts of the arts and culture community to make the resources go a long way in the last few years, while still expressing their creativity and ambition. So these are the choices and the judgments we've made. We need to now get on, make it work, and continue, as Baz said, to make the case for cultural investment. Thank you.